have a very, very special guest joining us in studio this morning. Chandler James, assistant professor of political science at the U of O. Number one, thank you for getting up so early and coming on up to our station. We appreciate having you here. Of course, yesterday, Election Day, that's our big topic now. And in the aftermath of the election, I know there was a lot of concern just about a week or so ago. We saw some issues of ballot boxes up in Portland, incendiary device. But now that we're in the aftermath, election security, how did everything ultimately turn out?
Well, I think that there was a lot of scrutiny regarding the electoral process and voting machines and things related to concerns stemming from 2020. And I saw a lot of coverage, news coverage of the inside of these balloting counting offices. And from my review of the things that have happened, I can't see any major evidence of voting irregularities of issues across the country.
All right, that's always what we like to hear, of course, after the election itself. And now we're at that point where we're kind of looking forward to what comes next, of course, and we're seeing a shift in power, a shift in administrations, and that's something I want to focus on, that process, going from one administration to the next, even just going from one senator to the next. How does that process shape up? I know a lot of appointments, things like that have to take place.
Well, I think former President Trump, now President-elect Trump, will be a really unique case as far as presidential transitions go, because he'll be the first president since the 19th century to be elected one term, then lose office, and then be reelected afterward to serve a non-consecutive term. And so he's going to come into office with a lot of experience, a deep knowledge of how he wants to organize his presidency. These transitions work in part through collaboration between the outgoing administration and the incoming administration. So I would expect that the Biden administration will work to make sure that there is a smooth and peaceful transfer of power from his administration to the Trump administration.
Okay, and as you mentioned, the non-consecutive terms, Grover Cleveland becomes less of a trivial fact at this point now that Donald Trump is being reelected. Right. We also, of course, still have until January before that transition takes place. So what do we expect for the outgoing administration the next couple of months?
Well, I think that the Biden administration will probably attempt to lock in some of their policies in whatever ways that they can through executive orders, and through the passage of whatever legislation that they can get through. But because the Republicans control the House of Representatives, we shouldn't expect any major policy to be passed between now and January 20th. So I expect there to be very little major activity happening between now and January 20 when Trump takes over.
Okay, and taking things from national down to local, one thing that I think a lot of folks might have seen, especially here in Lane County, we had several ballot measures talking about amending the Lane County charter, and looking at the results now, those are neck and neck sort of races for things that might seem fairly trivial when you look at it. So seeing that some of those ballot measures are running at a near dead heat, is that indicative of maybe not understanding the ballot measures themselves, or that there was a lot of contention in some of these measures?
I think the latter is probably more so the case. These are some of these ballot measures, whether at the state level or the local level, would really significantly change the way things operate. And so I think that the voters are taking very seriously the responsibility for choosing the path of the future. And as a consequence, some of these more controversial measures are likely not to pass.
Sure. And one last thing while we still have you here, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We also are still in the process, of course, of counting what ballots are left. What's the timetable on something like that, both here in Oregon, but also nationally, getting all those results to come in?
Well, in every state, they count votes with different rules and regulations. And so in some places like Pennsylvania, you might not know the full results for a couple of days for down ballot issues. Whereas here in Oregon, I expect there to be results within the next day or two.
Okay, so we'll be looking forward to that, trying to iron out exactly what is passing, what is failing, and of course, thank you so much for coming on, giving us a little perspective here on the election the day after. We appreciate your time, and we'll continue to bring you the latest updates as they come in.